For our book club today, we're reading from The Healing Power of NeuroFeedback, the revolutionary lens technique for restoring optimal brain function. The author is Stephen Larsen, PhD, and the foreword is by a guy named Thom Hartmann. This is from Stephen Larsen's introduction. As the distinguished American psychologist Jerome Bruner has said, not until we have begun to tell a story about our own experience does it make sense to others as well, to ourselves as well as to others. This book is the story of my experiences with neurofeedback, an emerging technology of healing in which EEG, electroencephalography, processors and computers team up with the brain's own circuits to accomplish remarkable forms of self-regulation. It's also the story of the development and evolution of a particular kind of neurofeedback known as LENS, low-energy neurofeedback system, which emerged from the work and research of a dedicated psychologist with an affinity for electronics and an intuitive understanding of the energies of the body, Dr. Len Oakes. But most of what is presented here are stories relating the actual living experiences of men and women struggling with disorders that affect their nervous systems, parents looking for help with their children afflicted with attention deficit or obsessive-compulsive disorder, people who are depressed or anxious and have run out of medication options, people with a head injury or the sudden onset of a degenerative disease that has left them cognitively impaired or emotionally unstable. These stories are in the area that the scientifically minded might refer to as qualitative research, clinical studies, or narrative histories. In this book, you will also find the stories of therapists who grow as they confront their own challenges in understanding, developing new healing paradigms, and learning how to help people who are very sensitive neurologically. Although we also cite and rely upon much hard evidence, scientific data, and measurement, and use refined high-tech equipment that measures the energy of the brain exquisitely, the real heart of what we have to say is about the personal hero journeys that transform the self and expand human therapeutic technologies. These stories move the heart as well as inform the mind. The discipline called neurofeedback or neurotherapy is itself a subdiscipline of biofeedback, a term broadly used for techniques of self-regulation. In biofeedback, a machine is used to generate electronic signals that inform a person about factors such as his or her hand temperature or muscle tension. Starting in the 1950s, it was discovered that, guided by such feedback, a person could learn to raise or lower blood pressure, quiet muscle spasms, or soothe an irritable bowel. Neurofeedback is simply the application of this same principle to the electrical waves produced by the brain as recorded on an EEG, an electroencephalograph. With subtlety and skill, it is helping thousands of children and adults learn to regulate their own nervous systems, a not insignificant matter, for the CNS, the central nervous system, determines just how one functions in life. The field of neurofeedback is not yet well known enough to have a reputation based on its remarkable efficacy, perhaps because its premises seem closer to the traditional wisdom and spiritual disciplines of the East than to the dominant Western scientific paradigm. But this dominant model is changing as millions of people instinctively and wisely aim themselves toward complementary and alternative medical approaches, and as disciplines broadly known as energy medicine reemerge into the public theater. Energy medicine had a fledgling career toward the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th centuries, but it was displaced by the monolithic and, it should be added, chauvinistic, allopathic approach that most of us have grown up with. Critics have pointed out that while Western medicine has indisputable benefits, especially in dealing with serious illnesses and health crises, it has very little to contribute when it comes to staying healthy and avoiding illness. Neurofeedback is a people's medicine that has emerged from the work of dedicated clinicians and their satisfied patients, and it is my belief that the work of Len Oakes will come to the forefront of neurofeedback, and that neurofeedback itself will take a significant place in the public awareness among those approaches that are not trying to displace Western medicine, but complement it. So people with conventional medical and scientific educations need not feel threatened by this method. I believe it does more than challenge our current paradigm. It expands it in a healthy direction. In fact, the work presented herein is entirely compatible with the scientific method and pragmatic empiricism. However, I will confess that this book was written by some strange kind of maverick wearing motley intellectual clothing always sniffing down the trails of misery, more committed to journeys than to arriving anywhere. One part of me is a good modern thinker, a psychology professor and a social scientist, as grounded in a post-Newtonian universe as anyone else. The other part of me has always had a fancy for myth and magic, and my published writing includes both scholarly and popular books on shamanism, mythology, and some biographical works, including A Fire in the Mind, The Life of Joseph Campbell. While researching Campbell's biography, I found that he also considered himself a maverick. I discovered that we are alike in another way. We both believed invisible things play an all-important part in shaping human behavior. For Campbell, it was myths, as he called them, of the immemorial imagination. But my professional focus has always been on consciousness and energy. Healing Power of Neurofeedback by Steve Larsen.